everyone. Good morning. This is Avjit Charji recording our weekly session of Chartsarefun. This is for the week of November 10th, recording this on Sunday morning, November 16th. Today we will talk about the start off with Bitcoin. It's had a roller coaster ride, headed almost 10% lower last week. We'll look at the Bitcoin chart just to see where we think there could be additional downside, if any. And then last week also saw NASDAQ 100 ETF QQQ. In fact, the entire market took a beating. So we'll look at where QQQ is headed. And then the key event coming up this week, the week of November 17th, is NVDA, the king of AI, their earnings. Their earnings is on Wednesday after the market close. So that's on November 19th. We'll look at NVIDIA's chart. We'll look at some of the key AI stocks that are more than 25% of S&P 500 from NVIDIA, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, Tesla, Broadcom, AVGO as they call it, Broadcom, Tesla, and Oracle. So without further ado, here's our Substack site, chartsarefun.substack.com. We publish blogs in the morning. Appreciate you subscribing to it with your email, and as soon as the blogs are published, you'll get a copy of the blog. Our YouTube site is Charts Are Fun. Appreciate you, subscribing to the channel, and then if you like the videos, you could hit the like button. We really appreciate that. So talked about Bitcoin. This is the weekly chart of Bitcoin, and we had shared this chart in the past. The key is it's been rising across from the early 2024 along call it a bullish rising channel. Join the lows, and we can see that the lows are kind of joined through our upward trending line and draw a parallel line on the upward side from 73.8, 73,800 from where it broke out. Not touching each of the peaks because there has been some overshoots, but touching most of the peaks. We can see that this parallel line to the lower trend line touched at 124,500. And then from there, after setting that peak at 126,300 around early October, we've had a steady drop. What we did draw is what we call in technical analysis or technical patterns called a bullish falling wedge. So if you join the peaks, the lower the lower highs and the lower lows. That bullish rising wedge typically resolves to the upside is what we thought would happen. We did think, though, that there was a possibility that Bitcoin would come and test the lower trend line, which it did. And it tested it right around 94,000, 95,000 last week. It's pretty close to that level right now. It trades 24/7 on a Sunday morning. Right now, it's at 95,393. So it is trading close to that trend line. However, what could happen, because if you notice, there are some bearish signs, in particular the negative divergence when it hit the second top from 124,500 to the 126, RSI was at a lower high. So that's a negative divergence. And when it did that, the MACD was at a lower high as well, also negative divergence. So if this resolves in what we call as an M-shaped double top, then basically starting off from somewhere around the 90K or so, it climbed to 124, fell to a key level, which is the tip of the M at 107.3 or 107,300, went to 126.3, and then it collapsed from that double top. So if you measure 107,300 to 126,300, that's 19,000. That's the kind of the depth of the M. So if you take 19,000 off from 107,300, that measures 88,300. So there's a possibility if we see this trend line, this rising channel break, next week, in the next few days with the negative momentum, we could go test that 88,300. We can notice that 88,800, 89,200. So around that 88, 89 is previous resistance and support. So potentially that could be the support point that the Bitcoin is headed towards. We can see that the MACD is kind of, this is a weekly chart, kind of getting at an oversold level, at a similar level on the histogram as we saw back in the March 2025 timeframe, which is, remember, the tariff kind of related drop. So yeah, we are testing the bottom end of that channel. And as long as it recovers it fast, the bullish trend continues. We shall see. And also, we don't want RSI to dig too much deeper towards 30. If you notice across the last several months, RSI is maintaining. In fact, it has not gone down to the 30 for quite some time. Since that level that we last saw in 2022, RSI has been trading mostly in the 40 to the 80, 85 level. And so if RSI currently is at 40, if it maintains that 40, 35 level and doesn't go down to 30 and then resumes a climb, that's what we're looking into. So there's a possibility shaking out the last set of bears. There's huge bearish chatter. If you look at Twitter, you see everyone's calling for the skies are falling in Bitcoin. People are seeing calling levels of 10,000, 15,000 on Bitcoin. That's the kind of because traditionally Bitcoin has always had 70 to 90% correction after the post-halving spike. So after every halving, 18 months later, it sees a spike. So last we saw was in 2021, November, before that in 2017. So after having 18 months after that, we see those peaks. So we had a peak in 2017, October or November, 2021, November, and now we are right there at the October, November level of 4 years later from 2021 to 2025. So that's the bearish chatter. But if the measured target on this M-shaped double top at 88,300 is met, and then we see a sharp recovery, we shall see how far this thing goes. Now, we have in the past mentioned that there is a cup and handle on the weekly chart, 69,000 being the left rim, 15,500 being the bottom of the cup, the right rim being 73,800. So 15,005 to 73.8 is 58,300. At 58,300 to 73,800, that's 132,100. We fell short. We went to 126. So we fell short a little less than $6,000. But perhaps with this rising upward trend line, that's measured towards the 132. If we can get a quick recovery and another attempt to the top of the trend line, which is a possibility. Towards the end of the year, bullish seasonality comes in. There could be a melt-up rally towards an exhaustion of this move, and we could see that in the next couple of months. There's a possibility shaking out the bears. So that's what we optimistically are hoping, but key level is right now, seems to be the way it's headed, a test of that 88,300. That's where we think Bitcoin is headed. Now, QQQ, which is the NASDAQ 100 ETF, had a pretty sharp drop the last week or so. So not this Friday from this week, but the previous Friday, it had dropped to 598. Then the entire week, so that was on November 7th. For the entire week, 10th through on, it kind of initially, first part of the week, rebounded back. And then what we got was another test of that bottom on November 14th, a week later. This was a lower low, 598.67 was 597.17. But look at the RSI on that hourly chart. Every candle here is an hour of trading. That's positive divergence. Look at the MACD, positive divergence. So we think this is a double bottom test. We think this is potentially a W-shaped double bottom test, 637 to 598. The top of it was 624, dropping to 597. So 698 to 624 is $26. Add 26 to 624, 650. So we think if this W-shaped double bottom pans out over the next week, in particular with NVIDIA's earnings, if there's strong momentum and bulls bring the power back to the AI stocks, this could help power this back towards the 650 on the QQQ. That's what we are thinking. We shall see. And what we are excited about is this positive divergence on the second test of that 598. So for now, that 598 level held. It held with strong support, and with that positive divergence indicating a possibility of QQQ having a reverse back higher next week. We already had a reverse back from 597. We sharply on Friday itself reversed to 613 and then kind of pull back and close near 608. But we shall see next week what happens and if this can reclaim its climb. Barron's talked about NVIDIA, and if for Jensen was in the news 2 weeks ago during their GTC conference saying that he sees $500 billion of their backlog on revenue for sure with his Blackwell chips and then his latest Rubin chips. He thinks the pipeline for $500 billion of sales is very much in the cards for late 2026. So in the next year, if he's seeing $500 billion of revenue, and they're already past the $4 trillion market cap. If you put, 10 times revenue for a company of that growth, That's a 5 trillion. So he's effectively pointing to a 5 trillion justification of his market cap, and definitely that's what's possibility of NVIDIA continuing and crossing the 5 trillion and staying at that level. So we shall see what he does in terms of earnings. How does he project? He's obviously going to have a strong beat that everyone expects, but what is he going to project into the next quarter is going to be key what the market will watch. Now, the NVIDIA chart, this is a daily chart. The initial part of the climb from that tariff low on April 7th was a steep, narrow channel. We can see this rising channel, steep, narrow channel, climbing higher highs, higher lows, till the point where it had a double top at 184. That 184.47, 184.46. That was a double top from which it broke down. And it did not quite pan out from the double top, because that double top from 184 to 168 would have measured to closer towards $16 of 168, would have taken it to 154. It didn't get there. It went to 164 instead of 154, and then rebounded, and then basically has been climbing along a new channel, which is shallower than the steeper channel that we saw in the initial part of the climb. That's how typically bull markets pan out. You get initially a steep channel, then kind of a shallower channel, and then eventually maybe it starts plateauing out and then coming down. But a move back higher, we already saw a strong recovery on Friday. It tested the bottom end of this shallower channel at 180, closed above $10 higher at 190, right? So it reversed $10 intraday, closed it towards the high of the range. So the possibility of this climbing back to test the upper end of that channel, which is climbing, as we can see, towards the 205, or overshooting it. We did see that overshoot to 212 come in when Jensen talked about that 500 billion of revenue that he sees for 2026. So that caused it to touch 212, reverse back, and then close lower. But then if the momentum is strong after earnings, we could see NVIDIA climb back to the top end of the channel, 205, or even cross it is what we see. Microsoft has a similar kind of a very steep channel that it climbed, a very narrow, steep channel from that May timeframe. This was after their late April earnings release, strong climb. And then it became a plateau, or call it a rectangle range. After that 554 peak that it touched, kind of reverse lower. So if you could call it, bears would call it a double top. 554 tested twice and would look for a breakdown from that 492. But recently, like not this Friday, because this Friday it actually kind of closed up almost $7. It tested that lower like 497 and reverted and closed towards the top at 510. But that 493 or 493 from here, 492, 493 test happened the Friday before. So this rectangle on the top end is 554 resistance, support is 493. Bears would look for a break below the 493, and that would measure a lot lower, versus bulls would look for a breakout above. So we shall see who wins in the tug of war. Microsoft's earnings and momentum is linked to the AI momentum from NVIDIA. We know they've had a huge capex spending with a great partnership with NVIDIA and OpenAI. So we shall see what happens to Microsoft stock next week after NVIDIA's earnings. But at this point, it seems like a good possibility of going towards the 531 level, 532, because if I look at 493 to 513, that's a $20 move. So 20 added to 513 is 533. So if not to the 553, 554, a good chance of another test of the 533 seems to be in the card in the next few couple of weeks. Google, was kind of a laggard in most of the summer till it broke out in September, a gap higher. This was major breakout since then, a steep channel that it's climbing. It's at the low end of the channel, tested it successfully and rebounded. We shall see if it can reclaim and climb up to the top of the channel, which is now over 300 in the next couple of weeks after NVIDIA's earnings. That will also have AI momentum. It's a strong AI stock. And the biggest news, which will add momentum to Google, was over the weekend, if we found out that Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett is no longer running the companies, retired from it, but Berkshire Hathaway took a position in Google. So Google should be a beneficiary of that news of Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway investing in Google. So we'll see the upside momentum we get next week from it. Amazon has a beautiful cup and handle, has not quite met that target, way much higher from where it is. 242 on the left brim, the low is 161, 238 is the right brim, then a handle and a breakout. So that handle and the breakout, so it's 161 to 238, we're talking about 737 is, $77 as the depth of the cup. So at 77 to 238, that measures to 315. So we think that's where Amazon is headed from its cup and handle on its daily chart. 315, it's been climbing along a rising channel. So it tested the bottom of the channel, but then broke below it. Last couple of times it tested and rebounded, but this time it broke below it. But remember, on the upside, when it broke above, it immediately pulled back. We expect this breakdown to be kind of a false indication and it to break above on the channels, what we're looking for. Because we think looking at this very strong gap up move, it kind of came down to try and close that gap, from below, and now it's set after having closed this gap. Not quite the gap from this candle, but the gap from this level here. It closed that out, and now we expect it to resume its climb, and that upside on the cup and handle towards 315 is very much in the cards. RSI, it's testing a key level, which is a midpoint level at 50 from 70. It tested, and the bullish strong stocks tend to rebound from here. So if Amazon can resume its climb with the NVDA momentum earnings next week, we could see Amazon climb back towards 315. So we remain bullish on Amazon. Meta, unfortunately, has a more bearish looking chart. It broke down huge after earnings, almost a 20% downside. So 795 is where its head is. This is a head and shoulder pattern. So left shoulder 747, head is 795, back to 690. So we can see 690 level tested multiple times. That's the neckline of the head and shoulder pattern. And then 759 is the right shoulder. A huge gap down on strong volume, capitulation volume breakdown, and continues further. That measure target 690 to a 795 is 105 points. Subtract 105 points from 690, measure a 585. So we think Meta would be very attractive if it gets to 585. At the end, it's a fundamentally very strong stock, tremendous growth and opportunities in advertising. It's really benefiting hugely from their AI monetization and advertising, and they're going all in for super intelligence, hiring the top talent from OpenAI, Google, and other companies to basically go in and make a big splash in the AI, next generation AI technology. So given that, that breakdown from 690 from head and shoulder to 585 would be a massive, huge buying opportunity in Meta. So for the bulls patiently waiting for it, that would be a great entry. So that's what we are seeking, at 585, kind of a level of Meta from this head and shoulder, and that would then lead to a great buying opportunity. Tesla is, of course, also a very, very bullish pattern. Let me just shift it to here. That chart is more better annotated than the other one. So this is a breakdown from a negative divergence. In some ways, you could call this a double top breakdown of Tesla as well. Why? Because of the 470 being the left top, the second top at 474, slightly higher, but at lower lows in RSI. So that's classic negative divergence, double top formation. So 411 or so is where this M shape of this double top is. 411 to 474, we're talking about $63. Subtract 63 from 411, that you're talking about roughly 348 or so, which we can see here. 348 has been in the past resistance, so that could be a little higher than the 200 period moving average at 338, but at 348 is where this M-shaped double top measures down to. It did pull down on Friday, tested 382 and recovered strongly, so it may, for the near term, maybe get a little bit of a rebound, but we wouldn't rule out this double top breakdown towards that 348. So we shall see where Tesla heads in the next couple of weeks. So both Meta and Tesla, from their bearish patterns, we would expect some form of downside. Meta towards its level at 585, and Tesla towards its level at 348 is where we think from its double top breakdown. AVGO or Broadcom, it's a massive ASIC manufacturer. They also have software business. They are a very well diversified technology company. Similar kind of much steeper, well, parallel kind of, if you look at the slope of their channels, but from a narrow channel went to a broader channel. But the narrow channel climb initially, higher highs, higher lows, happened from the May timeframe through almost all of August. Then it fell down in August, and then from there the channel widened, higher highs, higher lows. It just kind of broke below that channel last Friday and tried to reclaim it and close above at that 342. So we expect this to be bullish so far. We noticed across this entire time frame from April, it has not dipped below that 40 level, 45, 40 level on RSI. And that shows strong strength. When a stock continues to climb between 75 to 80 on the RSI to the 45 at the low side, that's a bullish trend. And we can see that bullish trend. It so far has continued to climb, has tested the 50 period moving average a few times, but only recently broke below it because the 50 period moving average here is in blue. And recently, the last couple of days have broken below it. So we shall see if it can reclaim it and resume a climb back towards the top end of its rising trend line, which could take it above 400. So that's what we think Broadcom could get. And finally, Oracle. This was big after they talked about in their earnings in September. They talked about close to 500 billion of their revenue as things that are unrealized revenue, but revenue in their cards or revenue in their backlog. A big part of that turned out to be OpenAI related revenue, and this revenue customer concentration caused the bears to jump on the stock. And from that spike up to 345, it has been steadily coming lower lows, broke down from a descending triangle, and that descending triangle breakdown actually measures below 200 to about 195. So we shall see if there is a little more downside, but it did reverse off that test of the 200 period moving average and rebounded. So it closed up $5 on Friday and with a decent volume. So we shall see if Oracle has seen its low. We can see in the past 215, 218 as a level of support. It broke below it at 210. And however, if that breaks, then there is that gap support right here around that 195 level, and then further down towards 190. So 190 to 195 is still a possibility, we think, in Oracle, and that could be a good buying opportunity because at the end, they're hugely benefiting beyond their software business, which is what they're great at. They have business application software. They are a huge provider of cloud GPUs and cloud AI compute. And now with Starlink, with massive partnership that they have with Masayoshi Son of SoftBank, and then serving OpenAI with their AI needs. They are a very big player in the AI cloud compute space. So with that, let's wrap it up. Bitcoin, we are worried about this breakdown. See, we are already at 95,300. It did break down from this, call it bullish falling wedge. It broke down from the low end of that, the lower trend line of that wedge. Right now, it is testing, however, that bullish rising channel. That said, we think this M-shaped double top, 107 to 126 is 19,000. Subtract 19 from 107.3, that makes us to 88,300. That's 88,800. So we think that 88,300 is probably like a magnet pulling Bitcoin, but we shall see if can rebound sharply from there. So that's the buying opportunity. We believe, don't be scared off saying that, this would mean the skies are falling. We think from there it could have a reasonably good chance to reclaim and have a V-shaped climb. So that's what we think on Bitcoin. QQQ, the hourly chart shows a beautiful double bottom, retest of the 598 at a lower low at 597, but beautiful positive divergence in RSI and MACD, setting up for a nice rebound with the NVDA earnings this week. So NVIDIA earnings is on the 19th, on Wednesday after market close, could add momentum to QQQ, and we expect this W-shape double bottom to measure to 650. So 598 to 624 is $26. At 26 to 624, that's 650. So that's where we think the upside in QQQ is. NVIDIA was in the news and Barron's. Of course, Jensen, call it the Midas touch, has been taking the company higher highs. This is a beautiful rising channel, a steeper channel than to a slightly shallower channel, but at that top end of the channel measures above 205. We shall see how well it reclaims and maybe even overshoots it towards a 225 or so. We shall see what it does. But on the bottom, on the bearish side, bears would look for this to break below 176, 176 to 212. We're talking about roughly $36. 36 from 176 brings it to 140. So that's what the bears would look for, a breakdown below 176. But the bulls are, with the nice rebound that we saw on Friday, look for it to reclaim and go on the top end of the channel and even cross above it is what the bulls would look for. Microsoft is kind of range bound for the last 3 months or 4 months. So 554 on the upper side, 492, 493 on the bottom. Tested the bottom the Friday before, and then it's kind of is now kind of poised for a little bit of a small cup and handle. 593 to 493 to 513 is $20. Added to 513, 533 is where we think Microsoft is headed near term. It may not be able to take out the top. That's what we're looking at. But if it is able to take out, then that upside could measure a lot higher, because 493 to 553, talking about 60 points added to 553, takes it closer towards the 613. So that's the upside if we do get a bullish breakout of the 553. But if it doesn't, then it doesn't. We are headed kind of a little bit of a slide with neckline break below. That break below from 493 to 533. That's roughly what $40 from 493 would take it to 453. So that's potentially a possibility where we have to watch on Microsoft. Google has had a strong climb post earnings, pull back to test the low end of that rising channel, could resume climb higher because it did reverse on Friday. And basically, if it breaks higher, we think that Google set it above 300 most likely in the next few weeks. Amazon has got a beautiful cup and handle. That measured target is over $315. Right now it tested, it broke below that channel and closed below it. But look at that beautiful doji reversal. It could effectively take above that, climb back above the channel and then break and move higher highs. And that would then take it towards that beautiful cup and handle target at 315. Look at the strong volume on that breakout, which means bullish momentum is very much there. From that, it came down to kind of close out that gap level here, and now poised for a climb back towards the top end of that cup and handle target at 315. Meta is the bearish looking chart with that head and shoulder breakdown. The measured target is 585. If you do get that target, would be an excellent buying opportunity. Just have to be patiently waiting for that. We're not too far. We tested 595 within $10 of that target, closed near 609. Any more negative downside on Meta can get it to 585 and get us to that target for a nice climb from there. So that would be a great buying opportunity in Meta. Tesla, kind of a bearish breakdown from negative divergence, a double top breakdown, the second top being higher than the first top, 470 to 474 with negative divergence. That breakdown from 411 to 474, you're talking about $63. Subtract 63 from 411, takes it towards the 348 is where we think Tesla would be an awesome buying opportunity if you get that. We can see that from this beautiful cup and handle, 367 to 214 up to 367, a long stretched out handle and that breakout. So 214 to 367, we're talking about 153 points. So 153 points added to 367, that takes us towards um, $520. So that's the measured target on Tesla, is on the upside towards 520. Right now, it's just got this bearish breakdown. We shall see where, if it reaches that target at 348, that would be one heck of a buying opportunity. If it doesn't, then and is able to reclaim the climb, then it's definitely headed towards that 520 level is where I think Tesla is headed. Broadcom has been like from a narrower channel to a wider channel now, just closed above the bottom end of the channel, did dip below it. If we expect it to climb back up towards the top end of the channel, very AI strongly related, so strong momentum from AI will make this move back higher. It's also very correlated with Google. Google's TPU, their AI chips are manufactured by Broadcom, so are their chips for Microsoft and the other Amazon. Amazon is heavily investing in their set of chips called Trainium, and that they're making a very big announcement with Anthropic using those chips to train their model in the Indiana data center. So Amazon's upside could take correlated AVGO on the upside as well. So we shall see what AVGO or Broadcom does, but that upside could measure over 400 if this reclaims to the top end of the channel. And finally, Oracle broke down, though they had very bullish momentum after earnings from the 500 billion of revenue backlog data center related that they talked about. The market kind of challenged it, saying it's too concentrated to OpenAI, one customer. But if they are able to prove that there's more diversification, other clients buying onto their GPUs, and it can resume its climb, it could then go have an upper test of that 50-day moving average near 280, which is what we potentially could expect Oracle to revert back to. But near term, there could be a little more downside. It did bounce off that the 200-day moving average, but the next level is at 190, and we can expect it to even go a little lower towards 170 to to close out that. If we kind of hover over it to see where that gap is right at 178 or 180. So there's a possibility that it could go down as much as that, but near term, it's got a nice support at the 200 period moving average, will rebound and make another move higher. With that, good luck investing. We'll see what NVIDIA's earnings does next Wednesday, and we'll see if Bitcoin can revert back and make a upward momentum move as well. Thank you very much.